We have here a 2005 Volkswagen Passat. This is a 2.0 liter TDI, and it's a VHW engine, and the customer's concern is that it won't start. And we've done some preliminary stuff. We almost always, when a diesel comes in with no start, we almost always just prime the fuel system. We tried to prime the fuel system, it didn't help anything, and we did a flow test here to make sure that the fuel pump in the back of the tank was working, and it did push fuel out here to the fuel filter. And we've tried priming it, and it's not helping it start. At that point, we tried to scan the computer system, and maybe we should have done that sooner, but that's our normal process. We did scan the computer system. You can see our VAGCOM dongle is there, and we get no communication with any module. Let me show you what this thing is doing. See there, it's starting and dying. Okay, so a lot of people might think it has an immobilizer problem. Our immobilizer light is right here. Watch what happens with our immobilizer light. Comes on for a bulb check, and then it shuts off. The immobilizer light is not flashing. Does that mean we have an immobilizer problem? Well, since we have no communication with the scan tool with any computer, and we understand that the key here communicates with the instrument cluster, and that instrument cluster shares the OK to start signal to the engine computer, that may mean the communication problem is causing our immobilizer issue. Now, we can't scan the engine computer to see if there's any trouble codes in there for immobilizer because we're not getting communication there. So, but another interesting thing I'm seeing here is no glow plug light and no check engine light. Now, we probably need to assume that that's because the engine computer isn't communicating with the instrument cluster. I'm not 100% sure of that. But let's get a schematic and take a quick look. Okay, here's our communication schematic. I've already took some notes on it. Right there is our OBD2 connector. And we have our engine computer right there, and it communicates on orange and black wires and orange and green wires, and it comes down here and joins underneath the instrument cluster here to there and there. And then all these other computers down here, ABS, airbag, etc., transmission computer, car's not equipped with that one, not equipped with that one. All these other computers also communicate on orange and brown wires and orange and black wires. And so all the ones on this network here are not communicating, and we're not communicating with any of these over here either. And so part of our diagnostic process is we check fuses real quick. We checked all the fuses to see if there's any problem there, but I don't think that would those fuses right there would cause what we have. That would just allow us not to connect the scan tool. But on the off chance, Bob, did you check fuse 5?
Yes, I did.
And fuse 7? I'm sorry, fuse 37?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so 100% those are good, not blown.
Not blown.
All right, we might double check that they are powered up, and here's what I see right off the bat, and something, once you've done a few of these cars, you kind of know what to look for. I'm not saying that's our problem, but we have a transmission control module right there, and the transmission control module sits under the floorboard. So let's go out and take a look here and see if the floor is wet. Now, I'm going to stick my hand underneath there, and that floor is wet. You might even be able to see it right there. There's a big water spot right there where this floor has had a significant amount of water in it. So that may mean that our transmission computer is sitting underwater. So I'm going to pop this off here. Can you grab a scribe and a Phillips?
Yes, sir.
And of course what we have found is a significant amount of water in here. Sorry about the lighting, it's kind of bright outside. It's actually a wonderful day out, but let's get this computer up and out of here. It is very, very wet. Obviously the harness is really wet, but the computer's inside this box. And this box is full of water. Look at that. Oh, geez. Look at all the water in there pulling out of there. That's lovely. Let's see if we can unplug this thing and see how bad the connector is. Oh! Dump that out for me, would you, sir? You see, some of them are pretty corroded and nasty. We're going to get a blow nozzle out here and blow this out and see if it solves any of our issues, whether the car will now start, whether we can now communicate. But not a hard diagnosis here. I've already blown this out some, but I was noticing it doing something kind of goofy. I could blow through here and get water to come out of it. Okay, I've done all the blowing that I want to do. Now let's see if the car will start. We could also scan it and see if we can get communication with it. That's not saying that's going to be the only problem with the car. Look at that, we got a glow plug light. Look at that, we got a check engine light. So here's what we know is going on. That computer, water soaked, bringing down the communication network, and that preventing the instrument cluster from sharing. Oh, Bob wants to show you something here. Look at the water dripping out of the computer. That's wonderful.
Sir, I think we found our problem.
So what's going on here is the computer is failed inside due to water contamination, and that's not allowing, that's shorting the communication network to ground or shorting it to something else, preventing the instrument cluster from sharing the security system details or the okay to start details from the key with the engine computer. So luckily that diagnosis wasn't too hard, but we'll have to probably disassemble the connector to see how bad it's corroded and nasty. Getting a computer will be easy because a lot of people convert these to 5 speeds, and so there's lots of computers floating around that we could access. But if that connector's damaged, that might be a difficult repair, although we might be able to get one of those from a 5-speed conversion also. So we'll disassemble that and see how bad it is. Go get a pair of dikes. Okay, we've disassembled this connector and took a good look in there, and worst part of the damage seems to be right in here. The third prong over, there's 1, 2, 3. The prong is broken off inside there, so if we can get that out, we might be able to salvage this because the rest of them look pretty good. I just noticed something else. The same prong that has the tab broke off in it, the wire's broken to it. So it's this red wire here. That really shouldn't be a problem, but we're going to have to get that tab completely out.
You're good.
So I have these harness removal keys, and I think I can get it out just by pressing that in right there and then shoving the whole tab out. Maybe I need one that's a little bit bigger. we're finally able to get this connector from the salvage yard. Had a little bit of a hard time. Had to actually go down to pick a pull and search through a couple yards to find it. See there, they got the pick a pull markings on there. And what we've done is we've taken the cosmetic cover off here and we've taken a screw out right there. And from there you're able to push this connector out like that and then slide it out like this. And then we went through and made sure there were wires present in every hole that we needed them in. And it seems to match perfectly, even though this was out of a gas engine Passat. So we will go through and solder every one of these wires. I have been on this about an hour and a half now, and I've really only done one row, although this last row only has 3 wires in it. The second row has just as many wires as the first one. But soldering and heat shrinking, those right there, and we use our little solder connectors like those right there on the ones that the wires appropriately sized. Kind of hurting my back bending over this long. Be nice to kind of jack up the car a little bit and do it up in the air some, but can't really do it with the rack because the rack would be right in the way right there. But progress being made. I'm soldering all those in. There's the old one out. It's a lot of work. My back is killing me from bending over this thing. I'll take a tie strap around there. Might put some tape over the wires underneath there, and obviously tape this up right here before I put this back together all the way. But for now I'm going to plug it in, see if it works. Here's our new transmission computer. Guess I shouldn't say new, it's a used one. Start this car up, see how it works. We have finished up the wiring and taped up the harness and everything on the trans computer and put it back in its box and mounted it in there where it goes. We've already road tested the car, everything works real nice. This wasn't a tough diagnosis. Obviously the scenario where the floor fills with water is common on these cars. It isn't 100% common for it to make a start and die problem, basically like an immobilizer issue. This is very similar to the silver Golf we just did, the jarhead car, and it would start and die like an immobilizer problem because the instrument cluster wasn't able to communicate with the engine computer, making the engine computer think the immobilizer isn't working. The immobilizer light, if I remember correctly, was not flashing on this car, and that's because it didn't. The instrument cluster was receiving the correct signal from the key, so the immobilizer light was not flashing, but yet it behaved like an immobilizer issue because the computer couldn't receive the OK to run signal from the instrument cluster because the transmission computer was underwater and it was bringing the communication network down that all 3 of those computers communicated on. I want to emphasize that if you did an immobilizer delete on this car, the car would have then ran, but the transmission computer wouldn't have worked. So it would have been not necessarily the wrong decision, but it only would have been a stopgap measure because you still would have had to fix the transmission computer. There's no way the transmission computer would work and control the transmission. If you learned anything from this video, click the like button. And if you want to donate to the continued production of these videos, find the donate icon on my website at www.kansascitytdi.com. If you want to watch some more of my videos, here's one right here, and don't forget to subscribe.